Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rod romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to Sober Talk, where tonight we're going to continue going through the big book. We're going to continue reading on. Just look to see where we were. We're on page 47. 47. So, grab your. If you got a big book like I've got, grab it. We're going to use it. All right. So hopefully, we all get something out of this. I'm enjoying going through the big book with you guys. Uh, it's kind of an exciting time. Hey, what's going on, Ian? By the way, I forgot to ask. Did you check out that last TikTok I sent for you? Kid on the bicycle. Wondering if you got a chance to see that one yet. Funny. Get on the bicycle ramp. That's like what, 5, 6 times now I've Rick rolled in now. All right, so we're gonna wait till about we get about 10 minutes in, and after tonight's Sober Talk live stream, we will be going live again. I'm actually right directly in front of my computer. We'll be going live directly right after this for Save the World. Save the World, Save the World. Thank you for that, Ian. I appreciate that. Appreciate that. Save the World is a game that it's for those that don't know. There's three sides to Fortnite, and everyone's familiar with Battle Royale. That's free. You can download Fortnite Battle Royale and start playing. Right away. You won't have all the cool skins. You'll have to be stuck with the default skins, but you can play. And some people do opt to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Or you could be like me and spend a small fortune. But anyhow, which I don't do that anymore. I've got all I can, whatever I get is out of the battle pass from here. But anyhow, beyond that point, that's the side that everyone's familiar with. Then they have the creative side where you can create kind of like your own gameplay, which there is talk about that. A few of us getting together and maybe creating like a zone, an area that basically creating our own map and adding in our own rules, which I need to play with that a little bit more. When that happens, we might even form a league, and basically we'll be, yeah, it'll be pretty cool. We're working on the details of that. Let's get. Yeah, we're gonna wait till about 10 minutes in. That's why we started a little early. Um, so everyone can kind of make themselves at home, sort of thing. I think a lot of folks actually just kind of sit back and listen, so the chat doesn't move a whole lot, which that's fine. That's fine. Um, but after this, like I said, we'll be on Save the World, which that's another side of Fortnite. You gotta buy that. About $20 usually, thereabouts. You know, depending on what pack you buy. Uh, and that gets you your start and Save the World. A few of our friends have started playing it and they like it. Um, let's see, what was it? About a week ago, we had Miagrid and her son in with us, you know, and we had a great time. It was fun. It was exciting. After the stream, I took them into the Plankerton Storm Shield, and they're not quite eligible for the banner for the endurance, but until they get to Plankerton, then it should actually show up. But they do have it. Basically, they got credited for that Storm Shield endurance run. Bad Bat and I had made sure that they got it. So, that was not streamed, but it was worth it. The Storm Shield did most of the work. I'm not gonna lie. So, um, now that I've said all of that, we're a few minutes out yet. Let's start. Ian, we got to give everyone a chance to kind of make their way in. We'll give it a couple more minutes. All right. And now tonight, Princess Faye may be joining us. I don't know. Princess Faye may be joining us. Um, she was saying that she might join us for a couple of good rounds of Save the World. For those that do not know, Save the World is my favorite side of Fortnite. It has a storyline, a real solid storyline. I love the storyline. Ian just finished the storyline, and we had a lot of fun. Had a lot of fun going through it. And every time I hear the storyline, I tear up. I tear up. It's too much, too much. We did it, and it was a great storyline. Yeah, you, Henri, has. Um, it was a good story, good story. But we are getting ready to crack into the big book. The big book is again it's it's kind of hard to explain, but the best way I can explain it is like the original members, the original groups of AA basically helped Bill W. edit this book, and it's kind of the main text, if you will, you know, based on the original members' experience, what worked as far as sobriety went, and we use that because, and some people will say, well, shouldn't it evolve? Shouldn't it get better? A treatment should always improve. Well, if it's working, then why change it? You know, um, it does speak in a little bit of a language that is dated because even though the English language is still the English language, and I don't care what anybody says, that is still the main language here in the United States. The only other official languages that I believe here that belong in the United States are from the indigenous people, but that's outside of our purview for this live stream. All righty, so yeah, we're close enough. Let's go ahead and get underway. Um, we're at the bottom of the bottom paragraph on page 46 of We Agnostics, which the entire chapter of We Agnostics actually tackles the subject of spirituality. And again, we keep the subject keeps coming up, and it will pretty much from now till the end. We get to the end of the first 164 pages. This subject will come up regularly. Again, when I say spirituality, I'm not talking religion. What I'm actually talking about is your own personal relationship with a higher power of your understanding. Period. Okay, big difference between the two. For those that are diehard, really quick again, for those that are diehard Christians, the real diehard Christians, let me say right now, okay? Um, and I'm talking about the churchgoers, when you go to church, that's part of your religion, okay? Um, yes and no. Okay. I'll have to dig them out for the next stream. Ian, if you'll remind me, I'll dig out one of them. The the big book as we know it, okay? The main the big book the one that I've got here is the fourth edition. Now I am lucky enough to be in possession of a third edition. I have two of those. And the editions before the fourth edition, I'm always looking for. So I'm lucky enough to actually have two hard copy versions of the third edition, um, which there are still a lot of people that refer to the third edition. Okay. As a matter of fact, Soberman actually uses a third edition. And when we went through the book together, he was using a third edition while I was using a fourth edition. Now, okay, hang on a second. Now that's a good question. The the preface, okay, I'm sorry, the forward to the first edition, the forward to the second edition, the forward to the third edition, the doctor's opinion, and every page after that up until after Dr. Bob's story. Okay, and Dr. Bob's story, who was the other co-founder, Um, and the story of Alcoholics Anonymous number 3. Oh, Chairman, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, all of that is the original Big Book. Okay, from the first edition to the second edition to the third edition to this edition, the fourth edition. Okay, so none of that has changed in all of this time. Okay, none of that has changed. So I can legit read the third edition, but it would be the same edition. Okay, it would be the same book, ironically enough. The only things that change after that is pretty much this part. So, if you will, all of this, for the most part, is the original Big Book. Okay, all of this. All of this is what makes it the fourth edition. Okay, so that so we could legit read out of the third edition, but the only way to actually get the full effect of the third edition is to just read the stories out of the back. And we could do that too. We can legitimately do that. Okay. But what we're going to be doing after the main part of the Big Book is we're going to be reading out of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. And then, if you guys want, we'll K-Med, I am sober from alcohol. I am a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I know the question's going to come up. Did I do drugs? Yes, when I was drunk. But that was when I was drunk. So when I got sober of alcohol, the drug use stopped too. Okay? If you were wondering about that. And when I say all drug use, that includes the use of pot. That included that too. Okay? All of it. The only thing I will take is over-the-counter medications and what a doctor prescribes. And I don't see a doctor very often. So, if you were wondering about that, good question. So I don't believe I've seen you before here in chat and stream. So welcome, and all are welcome to these to Sober Talk. Right now, currently, we are going through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the main textbook of AA. Based on it was originally written by one of the co-founders and then edited by the rest of the groups as they were back then. And this is all the way back in 1938 and 1939. And then it was published through what was Alcoholics Anonymous then, the publishing company at that time, which was owned by AA, kind of, sort of, kind of weird. It was one of the first subsidiaries that AA picked up. Politics. You might as well just stay ticked off at that point. But with AA, they, if you will, they bought a publishing company and it was branded as the Works Publishing Company, the Works Publishing Company. So if you ever come across a big book that kind of has a tan color on the outside and it says Alcoholics Anonymous and it says Works Publishing Company, you are in possession of a first edition AA Big Book printed in 1939 and was in print all the way up until 1955. So you have a piece of AA history. Strap yourself in on that one, huh? All right. So let's go ahead and start off with page 46. Which we're on the bottom paragraph, as I started to say. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and effort uh, make the approach into effort a contact with him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. To us, the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, all inclusive, never exclusive, or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. Really quick, you will hear me oftentimes say, and this is inspired by the big book, that the Prince Magnum channel is all inclusive, never exclusive. Okay. We have things that do upset us and that we take a firm stand on, but that's actually where I got that. Remember, they said the broad spirit of the universe. Broad spirit of the universe. The reason why it's said that way is not everybody's Christian. Remember, folks, I've actually sat in AA meetings where on one side of me was a retired Catholic priest. On the other side of me was a Muslim. Not a joke. And right in between, Native American, traditional paganism, that sort of stuff. Okay? So, Muslim, Catholic, pagan, right next to each other in an AA meeting. Not a one of us believed in the same things. Okay? But we found common ground on the problem that we have a problem with alcohol. So we found common ground. And that's what AA teaches. It doesn't preach. It teaches us the importance that just because you have differences in spirituality, we can get along all together. So that's why God is generalized. And you hear me emphasize specifically that that you know it's about spirituality, not religion. And so that's why you'll hear terms like broad spirit of the universe or a spirit of the universe. That's why you keep hearing that. And God is a title of the higher power of your understanding. That's a title. Okay. Um, it's kind of like, you know, and it's basically think of it along the lines of, you know, uh, yes, yeah, you'd be right. You'd be right. Um, as a matter of fact, sometimes some of the spirits we pray to is our ancestors. We'll we'll ask them for guidance. We'll ask them for guidance. Very interesting. Um, there was actually one of our members who used to run, who was actually a substitute teacher at one time, and he used to also help run a an occult magic shop. And she just passed away a couple years ago. One of the most important members of the program. I still look up to her. I miss her. She was an amazing, amazing woman. Amazing story. Huge. Just wow. All righty. Page 47. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expressions which you will find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from the honesty from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this is was all we needed to commence spiritual growth. To our effect, our first conclusion, conscious. Hang on. At the first, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth. to affect our first conscious relationship with God as we understood Him. After all, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our conception, however limited it was. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as we can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone is a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. Hold on a second. This paragraph is super important because you're going to hear a couple of times more throughout the book, this archway, a cornerstone. You're going to hear about this special spiritual archway, which we walk through to free ourselves of the obsession of alcohol. Okay? You guys have heard me say in previous Sober Talk episodes, okay? And in previous Sober Talk live streams, okay? You've heard me say absolutely, absolutely. Dead on again. Dead on again. All right, really quick. You're going to hear about this archway a couple more times throughout the book. This cornerstone, this archway that we're building. You guys have heard me talk about in previous Sober Talk live streams and episodes. You've heard me talk that when I was getting ready to take my third step, I knew I would never, drink the same again. Okay? I knew I could never drink the same again when I took that third step. When I got to my fifth step, I knew I never had to drink ever again as long as I didn't want to. I would never have to drink again after taking my fifth step. And you're going to hear again in the fifth step that archway. Okay? So we just talked about the foundation, and eventually they're going to talk about a keystone and all this other stuff. So if you're wondering, that's actually going to be essential through the progression of our journey to sobriety, if you will. All right. So, if you had any, really, that's right. I'm having coffee. I have actually, funny story. When not too long after I got sober, someone constantly seen me. I didn't go anywhere unless I had a cup of coffee, because I was so the alcohol and everything, and that became my habit of choice, drinking a lot of coffee. That filled the gap for alcohol, and I still do it. But the funny thing, I was at work. I was still working nursing then, and someone's like, "You're always drinking coffee. You know that's not good for you." I mean, and I let them rant for a few moments, and finally I said, "This became my drink of choice after I stopped drinking." And at that time I was like 4 months sober, and I said, "I'm 4 months sober, member of AA, and this is what I drink all the time. So I've always got a cup of coffee nearby because I'm so used to having alcohol around." And yes, yes, I did. Yes, I did. Big time. That's a good question. But yeah, they're like, "Oh, you drink it because you're so you." Oh, I'm sorry. D- do you want another cup? Cream and sugar? I said, "No, no. I drank my coffee straight up, and I just refilled a little while ago. Thank you, though. Thank you." Yeah. So that bear in mind you're going to hear about this spiritual archway, and it'll make more sense by the time we get there. But don't want to ruin the surprise for you. All right, so don't want to ruin the surprise for y'all. But just keep that tucked away. All right, about that archway, that cornerstone they just talked about. That was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accept many things on faith which seem difficult to believe. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, "I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe it as he believes." But I could not accept as surely true as many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Bear in mind, it says simple, not easy. Okay, bear that in mind. Moving on. How far are we? Oh, we got a little ways yet. Okay. Besides a seemingly inability to accept much on faith, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasonable prejudice. Many of us have been so touchy, even casual reference to spiritual things made us brittle with antagonism. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned. Though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open minded on spiritual matters as we tried to be on other questions. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It had it finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. Sometimes this was a tedious process. We hope no one else be prejudiced as long as some of us were. Let me stop for a moment and give you all a little bit of inside track. When I found out that my first AA meeting was going to be in a church, I almost said, I'm not comfortable with this. Y'all have to bear in mind, I have I'm still getting over some of my prejudice, okay, of certain religions. Um, Most importantly, the religion that I have the biggest problem with, and this is my problem, is Christianity. I have a problem with it, okay? And not so much a problem with the religion itself. I'm fine with it. I have a problem with some of its followers. So this is something that dear old Prince Magnum still kind of struggles with. But when it was explained to me, the person who 12 stepped me, who is not with us anymore, he passed on. Um, he actually was like, no, no, I know where this, I know where you think this is, but don't worry, Christianity is not involved. Okay, this is a spiritual program. Okay, your own conception of God. Do you have a conception of God? No, go ahead and ask. Go ahead and ask. You pretty well, but yeah. So I actually had to be kind of taken by the hand, but I actually had a problem. Yeah. And this was actually something that was kind of difficult. Um, it's one of those blind spots that some of us get from time to time. So yeah. So if you all were wondering about that, I'm waiting for Ian's question. But yeah, that was actually a struggle spot for dear old Prince Magnum. So that's why I said, it and still is a little bit of a troubled spot when certain subjects arise. It's just one of those. It's something that is kind of kind of difficult for me to get over. All right. No, we weren't. We were married by a very progressive Christian pastor, and it was in her living room. I would, uh, Princess Faye and I actually had come to the conclusion we did not want a guy doing it because there was no Native American or pagan high priestess around that could do it. So we came to the conclusion that the best thing to do would be to do it in you know, the best we had available to us was a Christian pastor, and it was a woman that married us. So I was perfectly comfortable with that. And it was in her living room, not in a church. True story. Best wedding I could have ever asked for. Best wedding. In someone's home, family all around. And it was great. It wasn't a huge wedding. There was only a handful of us there, but I will tell you, I wouldn't trade that wedding for, $1 million wedding. It was perfect. It was perfect. I was very happy about it, and I wouldn't change it. I, I in my head, I relive every moment regularly, regularly. Um, so yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. But yeah, uh, considering where I live, it's hard to find a high priestess or Native American medicine man to do something like that. Good question. Damn good question. Thank you for asking. Learn something new about Prince Magnum every day. Uh, all right, real quick. Back on page 48. The reader may ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let's have a look at some of them. So I'm a little bit confused. So is thing got to do with your um as far as my religious beliefs, yes. I'm still reconnecting with the tribes right now. Um, Religion is an extension of my own personal spiritual journey, but my spiritual journey, if you will, uh, started, if you will, the back door to where we're going on my spiritual journey began here and in AA meetings. Being Native American, you know, that's part of who I am. And for us, okay, you got it. Okay, so just bear that in mind when you hear me talk about Native American stuff. I'm discussing at that point an extension of my spirituality, and that extension is my own personal religious beliefs. But on the other side, spirituality is my own personal relationship with the God of my understanding. Okay, and in that regard, that's a whole nother ballgame. Okay, that's a whole nother, you know, religion is just an extension of my own spiritual journey. Ian rolling out the big ones. I love it. I love it. See, this is why. This is why I yes, thank you. Keep them coming. All right. The practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. And does not science demonstrate visual proof is the weakest proof? Um, it is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world that outward appearances are not inward reality at all. To illustrate, uh, the prosthetic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it. When, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all powerful, guiding, creative intelligence right there at our perceived streak come I'm sorry, perverse streak comes to all surface, and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. We read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments, thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain it all. We are uh, we are our contentious truth. It, it would it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Let me kind of break it down real quick because that's a little wordy for me, if you will. Basically, what he's saying is, um, you can believe in science, you can believe in all that, but to those of us on a spiritual journey, whether you're an alcoholic, whatever, if you're on a spiritual life journey, as I feel that I am, um, science still belongs in our world. We don't need to try to disprove it. That's not our place. Um, we accept science as it is, and if we need proof that there is a higher power at work, a spiritual being that we can understand, if we know that say like the metal for my vape pen, we know that it's what he's talking about is the atoms with the electrons, the protons, the neutrons. We know that, and these laws and all that science right there proves to us on a spiritual journey of open-mindedness that on this spiritual journey that there is a higher power at work, because these laws, these physics, and these all the things that make the science world work, that proves to us that there is a higher existence. If you think about it along those lines, opens up whole new avenues. I know that's a subject outside of this channel's purview. So that's how we accept a higher power. That there are laws and sciences and obviously if it's there and these things work for us, there is a spiritual being guiding it all, guiding, not controlling, guiding. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. All righty, moving on. That one was a little wordy for me. It's sometimes very difficult to read some of these sections. I'm not going to lie. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists choose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it? We who have traveled the dubious path beg you to lay aside prejudice and ever and against organized, even against organized religion, that's still a tough one for me. We have learned that whatever the human frailties of various faiths may be, those faiths have given purpose and direction to millions. People of faith uh, have a logic idea of what life is all about. Actually, we used to have no reasonable conception whatsoever. We even used to amuse ourselves by cynically dissecting spiritual beliefs and practices when we have observed that many spiritual minded people of all races, colors, and creeds were demonstrating a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness which we should have sought ourselves. It's starting to get difficult for me to read, but I'm going to try to soldier on a little bit more because we're getting very close to the end of this chapter. It's getting very difficult to read. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I'm going to go ahead and stop. I would like to read more, but I know that it's getting harder and harder. Absolutely. And the funny thing about that is, science, science has, medical science has come a long ways. And I could go into that for hours if they could prove that. Um, yes, yes. Um, mass, yep. Uh, Originally they started off in oceans. Don't forget you're putting a lot of stuff up there so quickly it's hard to keep track of it. You're keeping me going here. Thank you. Thank you. But again, what we're talking, we're starting to kind of get it broke down now. Okay, we're really getting it broke down now. And yes, science can be wrong. And well, there's a lot of sciences that, okay, archaeology, a science. It's come a long ways too. We're still learning about our historical world, and we're still learning a great deal. So as far as science goes, I mean, we could take credit. We could take credit for uncovering some of the mysteries of our world. But they were put in there. And in regards to Alcoholics Anonymous, they were put there, if you will, in our belief, in our spiritual belief, by a being much greater than we can comprehend. And you could believe in whatever that being is. And that is the crux of it all. Um, and, I mean, that's the awesomeness of how inclusive AA really is. Now, um, again, the big book does have some taken from the Bible. I know there are some people that have probably noticed a little bit of that. Um, but it also, in a way, almost kind of discredits some of it because some of the things that you'll get from religion, some of the stuff you'll hear out of religion, yeah. Well, that's a whole nother ball game. Uh, and for those that don't know, you know, I am a huge history buff, huge history buff. I know a great deal about United States history, a great deal, and I'm still learning. There's more still being uncovered, and history to me is a science. It is also a debate. That's one of the reasons why I love it, is because it's always changing and more is being revealed to us. To me, that's, hey, what's going on, Grave Taker? Hey, buddy. We're slowly getting to the end of this one, but read a good chunk of the big book again, and there was a lot in this. It's going to, as we continue forward going through the big book, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot to learn. Um, right now, we're in probably the simplest but not easiest sections to understand. Okay, it's simple, but I'm an alcoholic and I complicate and iron oval. Okay. Oh, you know about that one. Uh, sometime take a look at the Roanoke colony, the island of Roanoke colony for the United States. You'll find that one interesting. That one's still a mystery, still an unsolved mystery. From all the way back in I think it was around the 1600s. That's an interesting one. Um, if you like history, that's an unsolved mystery. Ian will probably, yeah, I'm familiar with yeah, that one, the one on Nova Scotia. I actually have a friend here on YouTube. I haven't talked to him in a long time. The Cadillac Kid runs Cadillac Kid Productions. He lives in Nova Scotia. Um, fantastic creator, fantastic content creator. Just amazing. Uh, I like his older stuff a little bit more than his newer stuff, but his newer stuff isn't bad either. I haven't talked about him in a while, but yeah, amazing content creator. Um, I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but last time I seen his channel was sitting, getting close to 700. And him and I were one of the ones that got hit by the apocalypse. That's been a minute. Been a minute. Uh, but yes, as we continue to go, this is probably the hardest chapter for a lot of folks to understand. And I will tell anybody that you're going to occasionally run into these chapters that it's sometimes not easy to fully get your, grab onto. There's a few of them like that. And here in the big book, this is probably the hardest one to actually grasp, but it's not impossible. Um, so if that helps any of you guys. Now, as we progress through the book, it's going to get a little simpler to read, but they're using a lot of spiritual terms that sometimes it's like trying to, sometimes trying to read some of this, it gets very difficult even for me. So once we get out of this chapter, we'll be getting into chapters that will be a little bit easier to read. But right now, it's very difficult because they use a lot of unusual terminology, terminology that's you don't hear language like this here in the United States much anymore. It's kind of an old United States form of English. Um, that's just one of those things. You know. So, um, are you guys still enjoying the reading? We didn't have as many people as we normally do tonight. Um, normally it gets jam packed in this stream. It gets jam packed, and it's a lot of people watch. We could have quite a few lurky turkey, but for the most part, a lot of folks do have been, kind of keeping up with us. Oh, really? Really? Um, I know with Sober Talk, it's been kind of a, you know, I know for some people it was, a lot of it was stories and, just my personal experiences. But now you guys are getting into what I had to learn so I could get to those personal experiences that were so exciting. Um, you know, it was a lot of hard work. Um, you know, I read I read a lot of I've read this book a lot, and I've learned a great deal about myself out of this book. Um, you know, it was definitely exciting. Now, I know at some point we are going to, when we get to the end, we're going to backtrack to the doctor's opinion. Um, Kind of save that towards the last of this. Probably should have started there, but you know what? Heck with it. We're on a roll. We're already this far, but we will eventually go back. Now, when I talk to people in the professional community about Alcoholics Anonymous, this is truth all the way across the board, and you guys find this interesting. With Whenever I talk to the professional community, one of the first things that I will tell them, uh, matter of fact, last time I had to do this, it was a bunch of nursing students. And I said, I'm retired from the medical field myself. I said, I was a CNA CMT with insulin certification. I was cross trained in occupational therapy, and I specialized in Alzheimer's and dementia. Took special classes just to understand Alzheimer's and dementia. So now that I've said that, I said, when I recommend, uh, as a retired professional myself, I said I recommend for all of you get yourself a copy of this book. I said in the chapters, I said I recommend the entire read. Okay, you'll get something out of it. I said, but if you want what's going to be most important to our field, because you are going into the medical field, what's going to be most important to you guys, especially for you guys, is the forward to the first edition, the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, uh, more about alcoholism, um, and the family afterwards. I said, those are going to be the most essential to you guys. I said, but for those of us in the medical field, I will tell you most essentially to read that doctor's opinion. That was written by a Dr. William D. Silkworth back in 1938, 1939. I said, he has two letters in there. The first letter was very short. Bill W. went back and asked him to write a longer version of that letter, going into more detail. He did. Both letters are included. And I said, I recommend those. I said, I've read lots of stuff on alcoholism, but that is by far the best and most descriptive from a medical opinion by an actual doctor. I said, that is the best one I have found. I said, Dr. Silkworth was very instrumental in the early foundations of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, you will find that his work is probably the most important for our field. And everyone was like, wow. And old time AA members in that meeting that were there were like, dang, he got this down. He got this down. And it was really exciting, really exciting. That was my last true speaker meeting, and that's been a couple years ago. And I was in front of about 75 alcoholics in recovery and about 20 nursing students. I don't know how they fit all those people in that room, but they did. And they actually recorded me, and they basically they'll play those recordings back later, and sometimes they get made into CDs and all that other stuff, and passed around to some of the various meetings up in St. Louis, Missouri. So I've been recorded twice for AA. The first time I was recorded was at an area assembly, and to my knowledge, that went to AA World Services and is in the archives. I don't know if it's true, but supposedly the recording of what I had to say that day from area assembly was actually, like I said, was recorded, and supposedly you're able to hear it at AA World Services. I've never gotten the courage to actually go look, but supposedly in the archives at AA World Services in New York, you can actually go in to the website and supposedly listen to my words on the third step, which was really cool. Um, when I told Sober Man that, he kind of shook a little bit, like, "Wow, you actually did that?" I said, "Well, of course I did." I said, "I asked if they wanted me to." I said, "Do you guys need me?" "Yes, we were hoping you would offer." I'm like, "What?" They're like, "Man, the United States isn't necessarily on lockdown per se, but there's still a lot of mask mandates around the area, and because of the new variants, and because of that, I've taken, I kind of keep myself at a distance from a lot of folks. So I have not been to a meeting in a while. So Sober Talk is actually the meeting that is kind of basically my AA meeting a week. Now, I have been to the NA meeting, which um, if I can get a video uploaded tonight for Faye's Corner or for something for the channel, I'll probably go to that meeting tomorrow. If I can't, then we're going to be live tomorrow in some way, shape, or form. Uh, that sort of thing. But this is the thing, okay? I go to as many meetings as I can, but where I live, being a rural community, you have a lot of folks that do not take precautions. And I just had a friend, the friend who was going to be helping me with Project Spirit. He's not getting around too much right now. He's on a 2-week quarantine, and I think you know why, okay? Which I got to holler at him and ask him how he's doing. And it's very scary that he has it because we almost, yes, yes. I just got to, we're having a little difficulty getting it to go through the editor, but once it goes through the editor, it won't be a problem. I have to use my cheap ass editor. I have two editors of two editing programs. One of them is complicated and does all the special little edits that you guys see. The other one, the other one is kind of a cheap one that anybody can have. It's free. Came with a computer. And when I have video footage that is being difficult going into the more expensive editor, the one that we had to buy, I run it through the cheap ass editor, then it goes just fine into the other one. Well, the basically I ran the stuff through the cheap one, and now I got to run it back through so I could chop it up into the individual episodes. That's the problem that we're having. Once that happens, Faye's Corner will be edited no time flat. So that's the problem we're having right now. Is trying to get it to load back into the editor because I ran it through and made it one giant episode so I could chop it up where it needs to be. It came with the computer. I know if you think about it, I have two editors, two editing programs. The first one that I use is kind of my one that fixes all the problems, is cheap. It came with the computer. The other one we had to buy. We had to buy that one. It was inexpensive, but it's damn good. It is, it's not as good as the one that I used to use, but it's close. So, yeah. Yes, we'll get on. You realize how much editing I do a day? This is not a joke. Not a joke. Too many irons in the fire. And basically, I'm going to have to probably start releasing content and cut out some live streams just so I can finish up the content that you guys really want. So that's the problem that we're at right now. But that does bring us to the stopping point for Sober Talk. Okay. Again, for all of you that joined us or are watching the playback right now, I want to thank you for doing that. You guys are the ones that are helping me stay sober. It's not just AA members now, it's all of you. And I am still a selfish alcoholic, okay? I am so selfish, in fact, that almost 1,100 of you out there Yeah, we'll get, yeah, that's kind of the plan now. But anyhow, um, quit reading my mind, dang you. All right. So, to tell y'all how selfish of an alcoholic this guy is still, without question, without question, okay? This channel is almost to 1.1 now. We're not that far away from hitting 1.1K. That's how many of you I need to help me stay sober. And the more the merrier. Yep, I got a plan. And that also brings us to the spot. If you haven't done so, hit that subscription button. Hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when we upload a video or we go live. Okay? Um, that's not, unfortunately, here on YouTube, and you hear me say it in the videos, you hear me say it in the lives, just hitting the subscription button doesn't mean as much as it used to. You have to hit that bell notification so you know when your favorite creators go live or they load a brand new video. You've got to have it, okay? If you don't, then you don't know what's going on. You got to do it. You got to do it. So if you want to know when I go live, or you want to know when I upload a new video, hit that bell icon after you hit the subscription. Also, be sure to check out the Teespring store. All the proceeds go right back into the Prince Magnum channel, and any more goes directly to Project Spirit. So that brings us to you know what? Then again, if people aren't interacting with the stream, it doesn't show that. So we don't know how many people could have actually been here tonight. We don't know. Okay. It'll tell me later. We'll know for sure. Okay. Just one of those things. But that brings us to the point where I get to say to all of you, at day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. And if no one has told any of you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.